Yeah.
We should be parading, you know.
No collar.
Oh, building and they're out there.
Jinx it.
Turns out the Ukrainian
That's right.
Werewolf.
Yeah. I don't see any pictures today.
I'm calling to order our regular meeting of Town of Gibsons Council on March 18th, 2025, 3:30 p.m. And we're honored to be gathered on the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation. Before we approve the agenda, I'd like to do a couple of introductions. First, I'm going to go to our Director of Planning for an introduction of a new member of the team.
Thank you, Mayor. So today I'd like to introduce Megan Uglum. She's come to us from the city of Burnaby, and she's our planner. She's going to be backfilling a Planner 1 position while Katie is on maternity leave, and Katie's maternity leave starts April 2nd. Her last day is April 1st. I don't know. Megan has a master's degree in community and regional planning from UBC, and she's got a lot of experience processing development applications and researching and reporting on development-related issues like growth management frameworks. And she also has experience coordinating and facilitating community engagement. So that's going to be really helpful for us with the OCP and processing applications. So welcome, Megan, and she'll be coming to council meetings as well. Thank you.
Great, welcome. It's great to have you. Nice to meet you. I'm sure everyone will get a chance to get to know you in the coming weeks. And I'd also like to introduce our alternate youth representative here, our alternate student representative, Louise Walinian from Elphinstone. And Louise has been here a couple times, I think, so far to be sworn in and have a orientation, which Councillor Kroll led. But I realize she hasn't met everybody at the table yet. So welcome, Louise. Yeah. Now we need to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? The motion carries. And we have minutes to adopt from March the 4th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson to adopt those minutes. All those in favor? The motion carries. And right on to bylaws, we have an OCP amendment bylaw, which is regarding lots A and C, Gibsons Way. This is in pages 13 to 35 of the agenda. And on page 3 of that staff report, there are options to consider. I will look to our planning staff to see if there's any introduction to this, or if it's straightforward. Okay, I mean, we're very familiar with this one, and there's a lot of information there that's available in the agenda. But I'll go to council to see if there are any questions first. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not really a question, it's just a reminder that the developer, both during the public information meeting and here in one of the meetings, we discussed the need to have a playground for toddlers and infants, and he agreed to do, but it is not as part of the recommendation. But it could be, so that's what I'm proposing, that the development permit includes a natural playground for infant, toddlers, preschool-aged children.
So we're at adoption at this point. I don't know if, I mean, the 3 readings have passed, right? So I want to look at procedurally here. I'm going to go to that first, and I see Councillor Lumley has his hand up. And I do want to, yeah, I think we should establish some clarification on this perception of a commitment that was made too, because I think there was the CAC negotiations, and there was that. I don't recall that being a result of it, but I'll go to the corporate officer first, and then planning, and we'll go back to.
At page 3, under option 1, you'll see there's actually 2 parts to the motion. The first one is for the adoption of the bylaw. The second one is for the development permit adoption. So the second part, and that form and character development permit for lots A and C Gibsons Way be authorized for issuance, could have the change to it in accordance with what Councillor D'Andrade is proposing.
I'll go to planning as well, just to remind us. We need a reminder, just from planning staff's perspective of this issue of a playground or play area and the level of commitment to it and degree of commitment to it from the developer.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there are kind of 3 different applications on the table right now. So you've got the OCP amendment for Lot C. You've got the zoning amendment for Lot A and C, and then we have the development permit for form and character for both Lots A and C. Now, when we discussed the development permit for form and character, there was a discussion about bird strike mitigation measures for the glazing. And then there was also a discussion about having density in Upper Gibsons and there being a lack of children's playgrounds. And so there was a loose discussion about what that could look like. And there was never actually a resolution made or council direction to implement it in the plan, but the applicants had suggested that they would make the changes and add those. It was a comment also at the public information meeting too. So there's a couple of things there. So the OCP and the zoning amendment, council seemed happy with the land use changes. But with the development permit, with the form and character, that's where we could tweak the recommendation and add the request for that children's playground.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Lumley and then Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, through the mayor. I think my comment was I don't remember that kind of being something that was, I guess it was discussed, but I don't remember it was finalized or that council said, yeah, let's make sure that there's a playground attached to it. I do remember about the multi-use path, agreeing to that. I just don't remember council agreeing to a child's playground. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, so that's why I asked for the refresher. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. I seem to recall at one of the meetings we had relevant to this property that one of the drawings that was submitted by the proponent actually did indicate an area that was going to be designated for this children's playground area. So, I'm certainly willing to support this, if we want to add a tweak in the form and character that, because I did bring up at a couple of the previous meetings that the other thing I suggested was that the developer work with some of the other developers in the area to create a larger playground to the benefit of any development that went in that area, because he's got the project behind the Bank of Montreal, this one, and then there's what may occur at Highway 101 and Pratt Road. And there's, with the nature of the rental or the accommodation that's being provided, there are likely going to be children who are going to be looking for areas to play.
Councillor Thompson, is that? interested in speaking and moving your microphone?
Yeah, thank
okay.
you. No, I recall as well seeing the drawings that did include that area. Yeah, so I just, and the conversation, but we didn't make a resolution at that time. But I do recall that, yes.
Okay, three of us recall it and two of us don't. So I will look to, I'll look to the people who recall it to maybe come up with an amendment. Councillor Kroll.
I was going to sort of move the motion, and in the form and character portion of it, ask that the developer reflect on the drawing he provided to council that included the playground.
Let's try again. I don't think asking the developer to reflect on a drawing is that what we're looking? I don't think that's what we're looking for. I mean, the developer can go and reflect on a drawing and go, okay, I asked for this and I didn't decided to change my plan.
Perhaps reflect was the wrong
So
word.
let's come up with some different word. Maybe staff has a suggestion. I'll go to corporate officer.
There was a suggestion made through the Director of Planning, through you, Mr. Mayor, that if Councillor D'Andretti agrees, that this fits with her motion, and that form and character development permit DP 2023-22 for lots A and C Gibsons Way be authorized for issuance subject to the following conditions. 1, the addition of a natural playground for infant toddlers within the landscape plan, and 2, the submission of an updated landscape cost estimate. Does that fit? Yeah.
Okay, how's that? That's moved by Councillor D'Andretti, seconded by Councillor Kroll. So this is now we're looking at the entire option 1. I just want to be clear. That's all as a package with that wording has been moved. And it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. So now we are on to item 4.2. Unless there's any more comments on that. Yeah, it's been adopted. So we're at the North Road Housing Agreement, 672 North Road Housing Agreement. We've been talking about this application a lot in recent meetings, and as council knows, we've been notified by email that the third reading that we recently passed needs to be rescinded, just to make sure we have some consistent wording. And I think hopefully everybody understands that. It was explained by email, and it's clear here what we need to do next. But I'll just see if there are any questions on this step from council. And if not, perhaps someone would like to move this recommendation that third reading be rescinded, and we give an amended third reading to change the 20-year term under Section 3.3 rental rates of affordable rental dwelling units to a duration of 14 years. So moved by Councillor Kroll and seconded by Councillor D'Andretti. Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And I think we were going to be adopting, we were set, so that's going to be next meeting now, depending on when that is. And now 4.3, rates, fees, and charges amendment bylaw. This is first, second, and third reading. We often have to update these rates, fees, and charges, and the explanation of this time is of why we need to do so this time is in pages 61 to 69 of our agenda. Are there any questions for staff? Councillor D'Andretti?
Thank you, Mayor. It's just a clarification on the process, because I remember last time when we voted, it felt that was for the next 5 years. And that's why I was a little bit concerned. But here, it seems that we are voting just for next year.
I'll go to our Director of Finance for that clarification.
Yes, through the mayor, this is an update just for the 25 rates into this bylaw. However, there will be the 5-year financial plan bylaw coming up, and we will see the committee's recommendation for 3 years on water and the 5 years on sewer there. However, council will revisit what's best to do for sure when we hit 26. Thank you.
I think we need a mover. Yeah, Councillor DeAndrade moves it, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Lumley opposed, and the motion carries. And now we're going on to committee reports. We've got Committee of the Whole minutes for information. And then 5.1.2 is that this is the financial plan 2025 to 2029 waste rates, which was a recommendation from committee. So as has already been discussed, this was a conversation we had at the last March 4th Committee of the Whole meeting with a recommendation coming forward to council today. And we'd need a mover and a seconder for this. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion carries. And then 5.1.3 is also, this is the water rates for 2025 to 2029. And this is the recommendation that came forward from council, or from committee, now coming to council, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Any discussion of this recommendation and motion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Opposed by Councillor Lumley, and the motion carries. And now on to sewer rates. Same term, same number as the last, except for 5 years, 10%, an increase of 10%. Is this recommendation also previously discussed in committee? And need a mover, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. And now for something new. And this was something that might require a little more discussion because it hasn't been discussed in committee before. And it was going to be the only item on our Committee of the Whole, so we just bumped it up to council, and it might just take a little more time. Councillor DeAndrade? It's off. Yeah, I turned it off already. Yeah, I don't know what else could be. Oh, it hits me the hardest, so I turned it off already. Yeah, we're just talking about the heater above us. So I'm going to look to our planning department to introduce this report on 2 rezoning applications for existing cannabis stores on Marine Drive and the Sunshine Coast Highway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there are 2 zoning amendment applications that have come forward. We had a previous temporary use permit applications for both of these stores, and they're for the Coastal Bay cannabis stores. One is on Marine Drive, and it's been operating since, I believe, 2019, and another one on the Sunshine Coast Highway on the corner of Pratt and the highway, and that's been operating since about 2020. So a temporary use permit is essentially like rezoning for a temporary amount of time for up to 3 years, and then you can renew for an additional 3 years. When we were looking through our files, we realized that these permits have been expired for a substantial amount of time. And essentially, they've kind of passed that renewal stage if they were to have been renewed when they had expired. So we provided the applicant with a solution, which would be to rezone so that they are allowed to have a cannabis store. Now, I should probably go back a bit and explain that our zoning bylaw prohibits the use of a property for a cannabis store or for a cannabis production facility. And so if if an applicant comes forward and wants to open one of these stores or a facility, they have to come to council and they have to rezone the property. So the applicant has decided that they want to remain in place. They want to rezone the property so that they can use the property as a cannabis store permanently. And so you have two draft bylaws in front of you. One is for the property on Marine Drive and one is for the Sunshine Coast Highway. Now, the town has a cannabis policy that is attached to the report too, and it does have locational criteria for cannabis stores. And you'll see on page 4 of the report that both the properties that are asking for this zoning amendment do meet the criteria. So they have to be assigned mixed-use commercial as a OCP land use designation. They're not allowed to be located within 100 meters of a public elementary or secondary school, and they can't be located within 100 meters of each other. So they both meet that criteria. It also speaks to obtaining a provincial non-medical cannabis retail license. Both the stores have these licenses, and they're posted in the stores too. Now, the policy was written before the Local Government Act changed in regards to a public hearing. So there is on page 5 of the report under communication, it talks about the standard procedure that we should be looking at when we're rezoning the application, and it's slightly outdated when it talks about public hearings. Going further into the report, you'll see under the recommendations, there's a couple of options. So we can look at informing and consulting the public if you wish to do that, and by holding a public open house. And we would require some direction from council as to how you want to, if you want to inform the general public or if you want to consult with before first, second or third reading of the bylaws. Or option 2 is to notify the neighbours of first reading, which is the usual process for a rezoning application now. And then option 3 is to deny the applications. So if you have any more questions, let me know. I should say that the applicant is sick today, so she couldn't make it. But
Thank you. And I want to say I appreciate staff's work, especially in kind of outlining the spectrum of public participation and talking about where it fits appropriately and or raising that discussion with council. And on that, I also appreciate that staff has given us options here, no recommendation. I'd recommend to council kind of a common sense recommendation here being option 2, because this is really, the community is very familiar with these operations. As we see, they've been here 5 to 7 years. I think doing an open house to kind of, that's something that would make a lot of sense for something that's new that people aren't familiar with, but there really isn't much to inform the public about when people are so familiar with these 2 businesses already. So that's what I would suggest the council look at. And I see Councillor Lumley's hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I can remember like this, when this came before council, and I wasn't really keen on having a cannabis. Yeah, I was actually, I think I was quite against it, having a cannabis store like on the main drag in Lower Gibsons, but I don't know, I mean, it's tastefully done. It's really not, it's not a, my biggest fear would have been it would end up like the place on Gibson's Way, right? But it hasn't been, and it's, our community, every community is moving towards, I guess, these types of distribution centers for cannabis, and I don't have a problem with it at all. Like I was adamant against it, but I think they're quite professional, and it really doesn't draw a lot of. There's no flashing lights that they're selling cannabis there, and so yeah, I totally agree with you. As the option 2, I would support that option for sure.
Okay, so that's moving option 2, and was that a seconder speaking? Yeah, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you. It's just a clarification on the policy, because I recall when we were discussing, I was actually surprised to see the number of producing facilities, because what got stuck in my mind was the number of stores. And I remember we discussed and we put a limit at the time of 3. So I didn't see this. Did I miss in the policy, or what happened with this?
Well, I think we're focusing on these rezonings here, but that's an additional question just on the policy of a limit in Gibsons. Can you remind us of that?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Matt, so the policy speaks to a maximum of 3 production facilities, but it doesn't have a limit on retail stores or cannabis stores. It was, 4 production facilities, but not, but there isn't a limit on the stores.
Councillor DeAndrade?
I'm well, I support option 2 as well. I just in terms of, because at the end, sorry, I think I got lost here. They talk about the policy being revised in, sorry, I lost. But I'm just trying to understand with the OCP amendment, which is going to happen this year, and the policy being revised after. So if the policy finds something that, I don't know if the OCP amendment, I don't know, I'm just trying to understand. And I think, just a clarification too, we don't have a specification right now for where to be, right? Specifically, there's just the constraints, like it cannot be close to school, but we haven't zoned any area, right, for facilities, for production.
I'll go to staff for that question.
Through you, Ms. Matt, we don't have a designated zone for cannabis production facilities. So we do have one property on, I believe it's Venture Way, that we have rezoned. So it's still under the I1 zone, the light industrial zone, but it has a site-specific condition that says for this particular property, that property is allowed to have a cannabis production facility. It's actually a vacant property still, though.
Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor White. We're rezoning. Both these properties are buildings that are not owned by the business. I'm assuming there's no objection from the landlord for the rezoning?
I can answer that. Yeah, there's no objection from the landlord. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in front of us.
I've sort of assumed that, but I just wanted. So if the business closes, is the zoning preclusive to this business in that location if it closes? But because the zoning's in place, another operator could move in under the canopy of that zoning, correct?
Yes. Any other conversation on the motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. So now we are on to item 6.2 of the agenda, which is from the chief building official, and that's a placement of a notice on title on 678 School Road. This is an item that's in our agenda, pages 93 to 99, but I will go to our chief building official to introduce it.
Thank you. Yeah, in September last year, was brought to the building department's attention. There was some work being done that may require a permit, and upon site visit, it was confirmed there was metal sunroom structure, being structurally fastened to the existing dwelling, and was extending into the setbacks, it appears, from a deck that was recently permitted earlier that year. I think the owner, we've been in conversation with the owner, and I'm fairly confident that they were unaware that that needed a permit, and we've been talking about that and how to rectify it, and correspondence has been great, but it appears that they're not in a position to be able to bring it into compliance at this time. Therefore, I feel the right thing to do moving forward is a notice on title, so that any future owner is aware of the non-compliance.
Okay, and typically for notices on title, we allow the owner to speak to it. I don't believe the owner is with us, but
They were aware. I mentioned the notice on title process, and they're aware of everything, and I think this is the route that they were willing to go through with. I'm not sure of their attendance today, but yeah, I don't think there were any.
yeah, I think it's probably the owner needs to speak on her own behalf. But I have the same impression through staff that this is kind of just a way to for some closure on the issue, or temporarily anyway, because otherwise they're agreeable to this is a way to handle it. It's kind of what I've heard from staff. But corporate officer, can you?
The owner was notified by registered mail by a letter we tracked it was delivered, and then it was also followed up with an email notifying him of the right to attend today and be heard. I did not receive a response.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, I'm through the mayor. My question, I guess, I know it says next steps, and it mentions Board of Variance, but is that us? Like, okay, so that's my question is, could they have come and applied to council for a variance prior to this? And they can't do that anymore. They can't, now this, I guess, it's too late for that. I guess maybe that's my question yeah, that's my question.
My understanding, I mean, it's too late to prevent the notice on title unless we want to put that off. That's on council. But I mean, my understanding is the owner could still always pursue the variance process.
But through the Board of Variance, not through town council. Like, they could have actually, if knowing that they were going to be exceeding their setbacks, I guess they could have just came in here and asked us for a variance, right? Yeah, okay.
Which involves paying for a application process to do that. So I think that's why that probably wasn't pursued. It can be a costly process.
So my next question, was it discussed and then they just went ahead anyway? Was it ever a discussion with them as far as a variance? And it was,
We can be confident of that. Yeah, I mean, that's what staff does is they go and tell everybody in these situations what they can do to come into compliance.
All right, thank you.
On that question about Board of Variance versus coming to council for a variance application, I forget if that's addressed in the report. Where does it fit there? I'll go to Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. So a Board of Variance is a minor variance or a hardship. So they would go to the Board of Variance and declare their hardship, and the board would decide whether it is a hardship or not, and then grant the variance or not. Or the other option is to come to council and ask for a variance. And so the applicant considered both and decided that this would be, putting a notice on title was the route they wanted to go in. And so this would just put the notice on title, and if they were to sell their property, if anyone were to purchase it, they would see that this structure was built without a permit.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. In this case, it doesn't seem to be a significant impact on a neighbor, but with considerations like this, where does the neighbor input or effect come into consideration?
A notice and title, I don't know that it does, really.
Versus variance.
Well, so if we had a variance application, then neighbors would be notified, directly notified and notified about it and invited. As you know, when we have variances, people can come and speak when the variances are considered. Yeah.
So in this case, neighbor input, do we know, has there been neighbor input, consideration, objection?
Not on a notice on title, no. We're looking
Up
at
to
a notice
this
on
point,
title,
though?
yeah.
Like,
Well, because no variance application was pursued,
I'm talking just general communication. If there's been any input,
like informal.
informal.
No. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. I would like to move the recommendation from staff on page 98. The corporate officer be authorized to file as per the wording that's in the document. And just to add a note to this, that particular building, it was the once residence of the town building inspector, Ralph Jones. So there's a bit of irony here.
That was a note, not an amendment, not any addition, just for people who are hesitating from seconding, but yeah. The first part was a motion. And I saw Councillor D'Andretti, you had your hand up quickly there.
Well, for the motion.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to take that as a second. Any more discussion on the motion? Yeah, Councillor D'Andretti.
Actually, Mayor, I got good question from Councillor Thompson. What happens this is a process question, after, even if we put the notice on title, but if there's a complaint from the neighbor, I mean, maybe in this case it won't have, maybe it won't impact, but if there was an impact, where do we go from there?
Well, I think we've done our due diligence here by putting a notice and title on. I mean, if there wasn't a notice and title, then, and the neighbor complained, which there was a complaint for this to be notice on title process to be initiated, then that's what we do. We do a notice on title. This is our response to issues like this, as we've seen in the past. I've never been a part of anything that went beyond a notice on title, or needed to. I mean, I think it's basically when we do a notice on title, that's our indication that this is something we don't approve of, and it didn't go through town process. Any more discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And next, we are on to item 6.3, which is the Sunshine Coast Childcare Action Plan. This is in our agenda, and this is the result of a lot of work over the years. We had a childcare plan last term, like what it had been, the original one was 2019 even, yeah. Yeah, so this is, and that created a committee that the town has participated on. And this action plan is coming out of that, and I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Kroll to just introduce it.
Thank you, Mayor White. As Mayor White said, this has been a project that was started back in 2019. There's been definite need for changes to it and updating to the plan. I just want to very quickly point out some of the things in the plan which I think are significant. On page 9 of the plan, some of the statistics there the income between a two-parent family and a single-parent family is really significant when you're looking at the cost of daycare. 12.9% of children under 17 are living in low-income households. The whole situation we're faced with on the coast is the growing demand for daycare and having the right daycare to meet the needs of the community. So part of the reason I was very enthusiastic about getting this onto the agenda and looking for, council endorsement and support of it is that it is a really great working tool. We've had projects come to us who are offering to provide daycare space, but let's ensure that the daycare space that's being provided is what the community needs. And I would like to see this report become a sort of a guideline tool for planning, that when a developer comes forward and says, hey, I'm going to create X amount of space for daycare, that the staff are able to engage with the developer, and even if it's just directing them to this report, that they start moving in the right direction to meet need. There's some incredible challenges with daycare when you look at the need and the number of spaces we have on page 11, like, 0 to 2, there's 642 children that fall into that category. We have 144 spaces. 3 to 5, 711 children in that category. We have 462 spaces. And on it goes. So I think this is an incredibly valuable tool. They're setting up a mechanism for it easily to be updated and to get input from people that are using it. It's through a thing called Trello, which is an app which is going to allow certain people access to the information and being able to tweak it as needed. But I would just, I hope council's had an opportunity to look at it. And here's a unique example. Mayor White was at one of our early meetings 18 months ago.
Yeah, it was in December, I think, yeah.
And out of that meeting, one of the presenters was someone from the provincial government saying there was provincial funding for daycare. And this is when we were negotiating for phase 2 of O'Shea Road. So being able to take this information, reach back out to the province, work with the Affordable Housing Society, who were very nimble, and the dots were properly connected, and that space now is going to have daycare. So having the tool to work with, I think certainly provides a unique opportunity for connecting dots and working positively towards the needs of the community. And I'll leave it at that, and if there's any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Kroll, and thank you for your representation of the town of Gibsons on the committee too.
It's been, quite rewarding. It's been a lot of meetings.
In Seashell.
In Seashell, yeah. All the way to Seashell, and but it has been worthwhile. And the people that have really worked, blood, sweat, and tears on this project have been nonstop. They just, they've left no stop unpulled, and they're certainly to be commended for the work involved.
It's a very good report. Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate this plan coming to council because it gives us a more hands-on reality. One thing following on what Councillor Crow mentioned about having a guidance, for us specifically here in Gibsons, I see on page 16 on the plan that they talk about the number of space we have, but I don't know if, unless it's embedded here and I missed, it doesn't tell exactly how much do we need, not as a collective in the Sunshine Coast, but how much in Gibsons, given our population. how much at least, even if we don't know very specifically, but at least an idea, because what I felt with the project that we just approved, even though I was confident that the daycare that the developer will provide will be in, like the standards, because it is a requirement from the province, so I'm not concerned that he's gonna do anything out of the line because it is regulated. But what I felt, we didn't really have, we could have asked how many kids, how many children, is it 16, is it 30, it's 20? And I think if we had some guidelines of the reality, we could make this request with some tangible base. So that's my request, if there's a way of, the same way that we have the housing needs report, that we have the Sunshine Coast, but then we have specific for Gibsons.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. There's, as you said, noted, there are the overall statistics for the coast. They are trying to parse out of the system exactly the demand and need within each community. One of the things that makes it difficult is you have a daycare in Gibsons, and you might have a parent from Sechelt, a single parent, who has a toddler using the Gibsons daycare because they work in Gibsons. So is that a Sechelt statistic or a Gibson statistic? And they at this point, because they're trying to parse it out, it hasn't been included in the report. But to your point, where I feel this is a valuable tool for planning, working with developers, it's not it's not specifically, yes, we applaud daycare, but it's, planning should be able to work with the developer to say, hey, we need space for infants to toddlers. I don't think, as a council, we want to be deciding, Johnny 3, he's going to go to this daycare. It's getting a little into the weeds, but I think having this tool that planning and the building department can work with these developers, the licensing for this is totally out of our hands. Like the provincial government and Vancouver Coastal Health, who have the say over daycare spaces and what specifications they have to meet, so on and so forth. That's sort of beyond council's control. It's strictly through the provincial and Vancouver Coastal Health licensing.
Great. Would you like to move the endorsement, Councillor Crowley? I assume to you the appropriate person to make the motion. And seconded by Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion of the motion to endorse the plan? All those in favor? The motion carries unanimously. And now we are on to a motion to close. Under sections 91E and M of the Community Charter, and those sections are listed on our agenda. And we just need a mover to close. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? Thank you. We are closing the meeting to the public, and we will reopen when we're done.